And we're recording. This is Rich Larson from Watermark Learning. Welcome to the IIBA certification chat for June. We're recording this session so that you can refer back to it later. If you have to leave early, you can access it, and we'll publish it on our website and let everybody know, or tell your colleagues as well so that they could refer to the questions and answers. I have to dash right at 11:30, so we have to hold right to the time that this was published for, half an hour. So send in your questions now, locate the GoToWebinar toolbar, and find the question panel and shoot me in any questions, and I just take them one at a time, and we'll clarify if I need to anything else, and try to have as much as a dialogue as we can. So first question that came in, one of my questions is, do you feel it necessary to have each and every one of the inputs and outputs for each task in each KA memorized before the test? So in other words, how much memorization do you have to do? Do you have to really get down and nitty-gritty with every single input and output? And the answer is no. I think having a fairly general knowledge of the flow of the inputs and outputs in the tasks is necessary, and certainly knowing most of the tasks and certainly every single one of the knowledge areas is important. Again, I don't think you have to memorize 30-some tasks, but it helps. I think some of the mnemonics that we use in our study guide are designed to help you with that. But even if you don't necessarily have to memorize everything, and I think having a thorough understanding of the BA body of knowledge, the BABAC, is essential. That's number one. And we developed our online study exam to help you sort of get a sense of the kinds of questions you might be asked, so that if you're using that tool and you get a question wrong, our explanations point you to which area of the BABAC that you're struggling with. So we designed that to be helpful for you to shore up your knowledge and really kind of maybe study on those things that you might be a little bit less familiar with. So that's from Danielle out in Colorado. Shoot me back an email or send in a question, if you would, Danielle, for any further clarification that you'd like to do. So welcome, Jordan. And you're currently in studies to hopefully take the exam fourth quarter. And I failed to mention that Danielle said she is taking her exam June 14th. So we wish her well, of course, and that's coming up very soon. You've got to be in your final stages of studying and nervousness, to be sure. She says, indeed, definitely that. And our slides in this deck, which you'll get a copy of, have some tips. If I can scroll forward, here's some exam top prep tips for you to consider. And some of the have to deal with the exam. Some are just general study tips, which says you probably need to spend about 100 hours on average. That's what most people do in terms of their amount of studying needed as a guideline. We've done some research on this and have found that to be the average and the median number that we've gotten in 2 different research studies on this topic. So take a look at those study tips at the end. Actually, you should be able to download it now from the GoToWebinar panel. Take a look at the handout section, and let me know if you can find that, or if you can't find it. We'll be sure to make sure that you get a copy of it. So the poll that I've got, I'm going to share a poll with you now to kind of get a sense of where you're at in terms of what you are interested in. Most people generally on these chats are interested in studying, but you could be at a different level. So I just want to find out, where are you looking at for your certification? Are you just looking into it? Are you ready to study? Or your exam is soon? I know at least one person is soon, maybe more than one. So please check out this poll and let me know what and where you're at. We so far had about 58% of you voting. So if I could just urge a couple of you to vote, get us up to 80%. Most of you all are just looking into it or in the process of applying. A couple are studying hard, and I know at least one exam is soon. So I'm going to close the poll, and I'm going to share the results so you all can see it. Again, 44% just looking into it, 38% in process of applying, 13% studying hard, and 6% my exam is soon. I think that's one person. So, all right, so that gives me a sense of where you're at in terms of that. Now, let me show another poll. Which of the certifications are you interested in? Now, I need to update this. I just realized for the new poll or the new certification that IIBA came out with for the AAC. So I'm going to make a note that this poll needs updating. So most of you are weighing in on the CBAP, of course, and one person for ECBA. Okay, I'm going to share that. And it's pretty consistent with most of these chats. Okie doke, I'm going to hide that poll. So mostly CBAP, but anything for again, and for the person or persons interested in ECBA, don't be shy about asking questions. It's all right. We certainly don't ever want to limit ourselves just to one certification. So for those of you just looking into it, I am curious what questions you have about the IIBA certifications. There are the 3 of them, and then with the 4th just being added now this month, just started 1st of June, the AAC. But the 3 basic levels, ECBA, CCBA, and CBAP, are the mainstays. There are almost 10,000 CBAPs in the world. I just saw some numbers this week. I'm going to say a couple thousand CCBAs and a few hundred ECBAs out there. So so that's kind of representative of the interest level in these IIBA certifications, but we expect the ECBA to grow over time. Okay, I've got a question coming in from Prima. Hi, Prima. How to recertify for your CBAP certification. Recertification is generally pretty easy. First of all, you have to accumulate 60 continuing development units in various categories. Mostly what people end up doing is either taking training classes, attending webinars like this one, or things focused on specific topic, skills, you name it. Going to conferences such as BBC or the BA World, or even local professional development day conferences to pick up CDUs. But you can also do other things like writing articles, reading books, giving presentations, and the like. So you accumulate these in categories according to what IIBA has specified, and their website is pretty easy to find the recertification handbook. So I'd urge you, Prima, to go find that recertification handbook. And then you go online, you specify where your CDUs came from, and either pay by credit card. I think you can still send them a check for your recertification fee, which I think is about $85. I haven't done it for a while, so I am not sure what that fee is. And boom, you're done. It's pretty painless. The biggest difficulty people have is keeping track of the CDUs over that 3-year period. And I know I developed a spreadsheet for myself in order to just track them. And on our website, watermarklearning.com, we have a recertification spreadsheet you can download to get yourself going and modify for your own use. That's the biggest pain. So I have to kind of force myself to keep track of presentations I attend or give, and then conferences I go to, and so forth. Danielle says, what's the difference between the 3 existing and the new one AAC, the different hour requirements? Well, I mentioned the 3 basic ones. ECBA has no hour requirements. It's designed for people coming out of college or new to the BA profession, or wanting to get into the BA profession. Number two, the CCBA requires 3,750 hours of BA experience, generally in the realm of 2 to 5 years of experience. CBAP requires 7,500 hours, usually 3 to 4 years, which is kind of on the low side. Most people really need more like 5 to 7 years of experience to accumulate that many hours of BA. Now, the newest certification, the AAC, is for the Agile Analyst. And that has surprisingly no requirement for hours, meaning that you can just take the exam. And it's a bit of a surprise to us because the other certifications generally require some number of hours of experience. But they've designed the exam to be more competency-based, and hopefully that will mean that if you have zero experience, you're not going to be able to pass that. So we'll see. But that's kind of a quick answer to your question, Danielle. And so shoot me back any follow-ups as you have them if you want to clarify anything. Stephen, you're the one who selected ECBA. Wonderful. I teach at Bethel. Is that in the Bethel in Minnesota? And you're interested for my students in BA class I will be teaching in the fall. It may make more sense to take our discussion offline. I'm absolutely willing to do that. My email address is richard.larson@watermarklearning.com. So richard.larson@watermarklearning.com. Shoot me that. We have resources, and we do course licensing, and we have a book called How to Talk BA, which we use with our ECBA training. That's also maybe something of interest to your students. So yeah, please follow up if you would afterwards with me, Stephen, on that. Gregory asks, what type of details, go to webinar, just move the question on me. Come back, there we go. What type of details should be included in the description of projects on the application? You don't have very many characters to work with, so you have to be brief. Just maybe, so let's say, updated the XYZ system to include online billing, whatever it is, just something very brief, a one-sentence description. You don't have much room for paragraphs, which is good. First, they don't want to have to read through a lot of text, and you don't want to have to be, doing this for every project, especially if you work on a lot of small projects. So I hope that answers your question. Just like think of in terms of one sentence. Hi, Carol, you're asking, how do we quantify the 5 to 7 years of experience? By submitting resume? No. There is an online application, and you specify how many hours per project you do, and then you specify them according to which knowledge areas that your experience applied to. So for instance, maybe on one project you did some BA planning and some eliciting. On another project you did strictly requirements analysis, and so forth. So again, I want to point you to one of the resources on our website, watermarklearning.com/CBAP. There is a, let me see if I can find it in the slide deck here. The slide deck has grown now since, let's see, resources page. Okay, there are URLs on this page to give you what you need to find the different things. So check out our worksheet, which helps you to keep track of your hours by knowledge area, as well as the overall total, so that you can keep adding projects until you hit the level. Let's say you're going for ECBA when you hit the 3750, or CBAP when you hit 7500. So find that spreadsheet, and then it's pretty much a quantifying thing. You just specify how many hours. Okay. Hi, Karen. I have a question on exam pattern. I want to know if the actual exam has all questions based upon case studies. The answer is no. Or will it be a mix of case studies and general questions? Yes. I've heard that CBAP V3 is only case studies based. That is incorrect. It's got a lot of case studies, but it's not entirely case study based. In fact, it's not even half case studies. There are situational questions and a few general knowledge questions. Part of the reason in our online exam we ask you a lot of general knowledge questions is to help you prepare to understand the BABAC. I think people could easily get the wrong impression by thinking that our online exam mimics the real exam. Part of what we do especially in our drills, we focus on the knowledge and some situational questions. Our simulations present you with more case studies like the real exam. So make sure you take the simulations to get some sense of the case studies that you might likely see on the real exam. Case studies will be generally 1 to 2 pages of text, it's a lot, followed by 3 to 5 questions to test you on your knowledge about business analysis based on that case. So you heard slightly incorrect about the entirely case study based. It is not. Bal Chander, I hope I didn't butcher your name too much. I've already paid the application for the CCBA, but not the exam fee. Okay, so now you have 1 year from the date that you were approved. You'd like to take the CBAP. Is that possible to switch my application cost? Possibly. You'd have to ask IIBA for sure. The email to send to is certification@iiba.org. Again, that's certification@iiba.org. And number 2, what's the weightage of Agile BA? Could you clarify that? Do you mean the percentage or the weightage of, I'm not quite sure what you mean by the weightage of Agile BA. Please send this back. Carol, it says, does this template is the latest version? I think so. It sounds right, Carolyn. If you're interested, please go to our website and locate that in our templates section. Danielle is also asking, I've heard that there may possibly be quite a few questions towards the beginning of the CBAP exam that seem incredibly hard. And a tactic is to go through the questions and any that you aren't sure of or are worried about, mark for review. Absolutely. I highly recommend that because my experience was that there were several questions at the beginning of my exam that seemed really hard. And I probably spent too much time trying to wrestle them, and I finally gave up and moved on to the questions that I felt I could answer. And that's a great strategy. I think it's worked for many people. So mark them for review, come back to them. And I always advise people, first time you go through every single question, do not answer it unless you're sure of the answer. Take your time, go through, and sort of like you're skimming. So do it in iterations, right? Your first iteration through is to answer all the questions that seem easy to you, either because you just knew that cold, or the question itself was easy, or there was some other giveaway. So just answer them, even if it's like 20 questions out of 120. Then go back through a second iteration and answer questions again that seem easy. Because guaranteed the second time through, they will seem easier to you because you've got your brain activated. Maybe there's some giveaways and other questions. There usually are. You'll find the kernel of an answer buried in another question. I almost guarantee that's going to happen to you. And then as Danielle finishes, then go back and review all of the ones that you weren't sure of. Yes, I totally agree with that. Even if it takes you 3 iterations through. And then last time through, when you're finishing up your exam, the other thing I always advise people is make sure you give a best educated guess. I always advise, don't answer a question until you're sure, and if you're not sure, that final go through, then put down your best guess. You won't be penalized for guessing wrong. You will be penalized if you don't answer a question. So make sure that you answer every single one. And above all, don't change an answer unless you're absolutely sure you answered it wrong the first time because maybe of what you learned from another question. So generally speaking, if you change your answer on an exam like this, it goes from wrong or going from correct to wrong. I've seen that so much in the classes I've taught over the years during our practice exams that people said, darn, I had the right answer at first and I changed it to the wrong one. So that's why it really seems clear to me that that's good advice. So Iftikhar, how important is certification in the Agile environment? You raise a good question. It's all over the board, I think. We see a huge popularity in CSM and CSPO certifications. those are extremely popular courses that we teach. We have mixed results when it comes to PMI-ACP in terms of people's interest in it. PMI claims it's one of the fastest growing certifications they have, but that doesn't mean the marketplace values it in a certain way. I think the marketplace does value CSM, and therefore with the IIBA-AAC, it remains to be seen. I do think in general certification are valuable. I just gave a webinar yesterday for the IIBA Birmingham chapter on the benefits of certification. By the way, we've got that webinar on our website too. If you're still looking into things, I'd suggest you check it out. Go to our resources section, look for webinars, and look for the benefits of certification there. So I think the jury is out on different Agile certifications, but I do see a tremendous interest in them, which tells me that organizations find them valuable, right? Nobody really can definitively give that answer, but I think that I'm just telling you what I'm seeing in terms of trends and numbers. Karen is asking, how do you know what is the passing score for CBAP? And the answer is you don't. It's not disclosed anywhere. They keep it a deep, dark secret. What we tell people is that most professional exams have around a 70% score for passing. They call it a cut score. You're cut if you don't get that level. What we suggest in our study exams is that you aim for 80%. Go above that, because our questions aren't the real ones. You want to make sure you're over prepared to be able to encounter anything on the real exam. So that's kind of what I have to say about cut scores and passing. I'm sorry, I wish I knew what it was, but I think that 70% number is still a valid assumption. Carol says, can I go through all the questions first without answering? Yes, you can. Then go back the second time to start answering? You bet. That's one thing I'm saying. You may even want to flag questions that you want to make sure you go back and answer. Leave anything blank that, yeah, I think I could answer that with some more thought. Flag the questions for review that you are really not sure of, perhaps. And our exam simulator gives you the capability of flagging a question so you could go back and look at that. So yeah, that's what I'm saying. You could literally go through the first batch without answering, but if you're sure of a question and its answer, I'd answer it. There are going to be some in that 120 that it pretty much guarantee that you're going to be able to answer, like, oh, no problem, that's an easy one. So do answer those. So each time through, answer the ones that you're sure of. Joe, we're going to post this presentation to re-review on our website. Again, it's in the webinar section of our resources. So if you go to our watermarklearning.com, look for the resources menu item, go to the webinars, and you'll find it there. So Balachandar said, I need to ask the value of the Agile BA certification. Thank you for clarifying. I've been urging IIBA for years to have an Agile BA certification. And I'm basing that just on intuition. I don't know why I've been pushing for it, other than I think there's a niche there that maybe it came from the Agile extension, which was a good document, and then they came out with a second version of it, which is an even better document. So I think there's value there. And I also think that organizations don't value the role of business analysis on Agile and Scrum related type projects. So I think that will help with getting people to recognize the value of business analysis in terms of what it can do for improving projects. So Joe is saying you have to leave early. That's okay. Check out the recording. We will provide it for you all and send you a note by email after this as well. Jordan, do you foresee more Agile certifications taking place in lieu of the ECBA, CBAP due to changing paradigms within organizations? I don't think from IIBA. I don't think they're going to come out with other Agile certifications. There may be others by other organizations. I'm seeing more Scrum type certifications besides the CSM from Scrum Alliance, but I don't think from IIBA, if that's what you're talking about. They are talking about more focused certification based on security, believe it or not. So they're trying to cover a lot of different bases, so I don't think they're going to diversify more than the one AAC. Joe says, I have studies about 15 to 20 hours per week. That's a lot. For the last 3 months, I'm still only getting 30 to 40% on the practice exam. I would urge you, if you're studying that much, is to make sure that you read the BABAC. And I'd ask, are you using our study guide? Are you using, or other books on the market? We don't have the only one, to make sure that you round out your learning. Perhaps a class would help you. Iftikhar says, do we even have a negative markings for leaving the question without answering? Well, if you leave a question blank, you will get it wrong. That's the negative marking. So Joe is saying, I'm having a difficult time in figuring out, I can't remember every technique, how it applies in elements. Given that you have that, maybe you want to construct your own exam questions. I think that's a useful technique, or your own flashcards maybe. Our website also has a flashcard template that you can use to create your own flashcards. So check that out in our CBAP resources. Joe's also saying the practice exam seems to pinpoint certain sentences in the elements, which is, it's crazy trying to remember, but the reason we do that is that we want to pull out, knowledge to test people on. It's difficult to write good test questions, and so we want to focus in on things that are verifiable based on the BABAC. And so that I can understand your frustration with that. So let me just leave you with that thought about different resources in terms of study guides and even study groups and classes as ways to maybe fill in some gaps. Karen is asking, can I expect to see a few questions on the exam directly from the Watermark Learning practice questions? No. It would be, first of all, violating the code of conduct as CBAPs as well as EEPs if we were to try to do that. We don't even want to know what is the exact question on the real exam. That's unethical. What we want to do is prepare you to pass, excuse me, prepare you to pass the exam based on your knowledge of the BABAC and your ability to answer practice questions. So you're going to see questions that may be similar in tone and complexity, but bear in mind, our study exam job is to prepare you to understand the BABAC first and foremost, and secondly, to get used to answering questions that you're likely to see in tone and texture. So, so Joe, why don't you shoot me in an email to follow up at richard.larson@watermarklearning.com. So if you purchase the book and you took our class, we have some other thoughts about that. So so there's a lot out there in the world to worry about. Each month we hold these chats to try to address your concerns, and if you are a customer of ours, you can use our resources, of course, but also classes. We can give you more concerted advice and preparation. What else is there to say? Check out the PowerPoint that it's going to come your way. We've just beefed it up with even more information that may be of interest to you. I'm not seeing any more. You're welcome, Danielle. I want to wish you best wishes on your exam and everybody else. I never say good luck out of a silly superstition, but basically I want to wish you well on passing, and make sure you don't cram the last minute. Get plenty of rest the night before your exam. That's going to serve you better than staying up late and crunching at the last minute. So, go into the exam relaxed. And one final question or two. Joe is saying the fail rate for the exam, I don't know what it is. We're sort of guessing that about 80% of the people pass the exam the first time, but that's just a guess. So Larry, thank you much for the tips. Check those out. We're going to wrap it up now. It's half after the hour. Look for our follow-up. So thank you guys. And then again, first of next month, we'll do another one of these tips. And And Karen is asking as a final kind of question, do I need Watermark study guide? You don't really need it. I think the practice questions are helpful, but what's most important is that you understand the BABOK. So I definitely always urge people to read the BABOK at least once. And if you're not going to get a study guide, make sure you read the BABOK cover to cover twice. But no, you don't need a study guide. If you're able to understand the BABOK well enough on its own, or at least feel you are understanding, that should be good enough. So thank you, everybody, for your interest and your questions. And I urge you to come back next month for our next chat. And again, best wishes on passing. Go out there and get certified. Thank you very much, everybody.